how do you like your Atmos music mixed? Do you like it to have objects moving around all the time? Do you like objects to stay exactly in one space but have a pinpoint accurate location where it doesn't move? Or do you like the instruments to stay in one place but we spread them out over multiple speakers, creating more of a big bubble of sound, putting you inside the band? Well, today we're going to answer that question with my new Atmos mix I've got for you today. So check it out. So thanks for clicking on this. If you don't know me, my name's Nick Matzke. I'm a guitarist and mixing and mastering engineer, and I'm also been doing a lot of cool mixes in Dolby Atmos lately. This is a project I had an idea to do. This is an original song of mine from my album Decennium, and it's really not a crazy song arrangement-wise. There's not a ton of instruments on this. It's pretty simple: drums, bass, a couple guitar tracks, keys. And everything is real, natural sounding, right? So kind of like a typical, almost like a live band in the studio. So not a lot of like a typical pop production where we have 50 tracks or whatever, and I have a ton of stuff to move around the room, with an Atmos mix, like something I did with like Focus or my other original that I did, Live Up the Night. So what I wanted to do with this, I want to answer a couple questions. Number one, could I make a cool Atmos mix out of a track that is not typically going to be one that presents to be great for Atmos, right? But I kind of came up with a cool idea to try out. So I initially was going to do 2 different mixes, but I ended up settling on 3 mixes. And what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and download these files. You can get, if you go down to the link in the description, it's going to take you to my website where you can download the files for free. I'm also going to have a link to my Patreon where you can get the files in Dolby True HD, which I will talk about that more at the end. But basically, you're going to go download these files and check it out on your system, listen to all 3 mixes, and I really want to know which approach you like the best, specifically for music. It's kind of going to be a taste thing, but I know kind of which one I'm leaning towards, but I kind of, for this particular song, but I want to know what you guys think. And even if you don't like, let's say, the approach where the objects are moving around, that one is actually still going to be a really good demo for your home theater and a great torture test for your speakers for the timbre matching when you have a sound moving around the room. So if nothing else, even if you're not into Atmos music, if you really would like a good test for your Dolby Atmos system to see how when a sound moves around the room, are all your speakers timbre matched? The dynamic objects with the moving objects version of this mix is going to be the one to check out for that. And then one more thing I did on this mix that I hadn't done on my previous mixes was this is the first time I started messing around with reverbs that weren't in the original song that I added that are what would be like spatial reverbs, the way I set them up. So they're kind of like spread all around the entire room. So even when a sound moves around, for example, like a guitar, if it's moving around the room, you're still going to hear that sound moving to a pinpoint location, but the little bit of reverb on it is kind of taking up the entire space. So there's basically some reverb coming out of every speaker except the center speaker. Now it's small, you have to really listen closely here, but it really helps kind of put the instruments in a space that's more cohesive. So when they move around, it's not quite so jarring when you try to move them around. Now let's talk about the 3 versions. The first 2 are going to be pretty easy to talk about, and then the third one I'm going to go through the one that actually has stuff moving around. I'm going to go through that one and kind of look for a few things. All 3 of them, again, they're the same song, same instrumentation. They should be about the same volume. There is a little breakdown in the middle, which I call like the radio guitar breakdown. On all 3 versions, it's doing something different. Let's start with the version I'm going to call the static mix. Okay, so this is where the objects, it's called static objects mix. So this one is pretty easy to explain, right? It's all mixed with objects. Now with Dolby Atmos, you can use something assigned to the bed or something is assigned to the object. I've talked about that more in other videos, but just a brief way to just summarize it. A bed is only going to be in the 7.1.2, but the objects can move to, if you have more speakers than that, it'll move, precisely around, like if you have 9.whatever.6. So the objects will scale up to whatever your system speaker count is and move discretely through those speakers. Whereas if a bed sound moves around the room, it's only going to go through the 7.1.2. So again, with this objects mix, it's pretty easy to explain because basically everything is an object, all right? And you'll see This is the Dolby Atmos renderer here. You can watch the meters up there for the speakers, but these little dots are all the objects. And everything is in just one place and it stays there the whole time. But it's going to be a pinpoint accurate location. Now this is a great test if you have wide speakers, because the two guitar tracks are in the front left and right wide speakers. Now if you don't have wides, it's fine. I don't have wides in my system, and it actually sounds, you know, when you put it in the wide location, it's like the left and right, and then it sounds like it's a little bit in the side surrounds, okay? But if you have wide speakers, this is a great test for that, because it should be coming only through the wides. You know, the drums are kind of set up as if you're kind of like sitting at the drum set. You know, the overhead's a little above you, the snare is a little bit in front of you to the left. I raised it up a little bit. The kick drum is coming out of the center. The toms are kind of to the right of center and all the way to the right, okay? The keys are like behind you, the guitars are on the sides, and then both of the key solo and the guitar solo are more above you, right? And again, these just stay in one place the whole time. So you're going to get, it's not distracting or anything, but to me, when I listen to this, it's a little boring, but it's not distracting. You can kind of get more lost in the song, and each instrument has a pinpoint accurate location. Okay, before we talk about the next version, one thing I forgot to mention is, as far as when you get the files, as far as how to play them back, I've got detailed instructions, both when you click on that link to my website, and I've got detailed instructions on the Patreon on how to actually play back the files on your system. Now, this is the one that was most interesting to me. This is the one I'm calling the Inside the Band mix, okay? And what I wanted to try to do with this one was really put it like you're actually inside the room. Now, you could argue that static objects mix is kind of like that, but this kind of, it fills you up a little more, and it's more like, I call it inside your head, because the static mix is more everything's on the wall sitting there. This is kind of bringing stuff into the room a little more, and kind of on top of you, right? And just a little more enveloping. In order to do that, so this one I mixed everything through the bed. There's nothing, there is an object bed, which that's a whole nother explanation, but I tried to put an explanation on the video itself so you can see. But basically, each instrument is panned to a location in the bed, and that's why I don't have the renderer up, because the renderer is not going to show anything. When you do stuff to the bed, it doesn't show up in the renderer. Only the objects show up in the renderer, right? So what I did here is I pulled up the panning location in Pro Tools for each of the instruments. It's a little small, but if you go and look, you can see, you can read each instrument, you know, kick, snare, tom 1, tom 2, overhead, radio guitar, you know, bass, keys solo, rhythm guitar, lead guitar, solo guitar, right? So those are all the tracks. You can see where they're panned. Just about every one of the tracks has a second panning location, which is, I'm sending that to an object bed, okay? Now, the object bed are just static objects, but it allows you to basically send one instrument to another location, to like a second location. So with a lot of these, you can see I have, this is where its bed location is, and on the second row is where it is in the object bed. So some things are really close, like the snare, for example, is like, you know, if this was a square, it's like right here and right here, right? But the kick, for example, I have coming out of the center, and then the second one is coming out of the back rear. Now, usually the one that's going to the object bed is mixed much quieter. So it's not meant to like, it's meant to just add a little bit of extra, you know, weight and envelopment to each sound. Usually that second send of the sound is not as loud, right? And then other stuff like, for example, the keys, the main bed one is to the sides, and then the object one is to the rear, the static object. So the keys will kind of sound like they're on the side and behind you. So it really spreads them out a little more. And they're in the heights a little bit too. And so you'll hear the keys kind of like basically everything from like here back, you know, the keys will envelop. And the guitars are kind of the same way. They're kind of starting in that front ride location, but spreading out a little more and up a little bit. And then the drums are much more, instead of being kind of in your face and over the top, they're still, it's like that, but they're kind of brought forward a little more. And the overheads and stuff are really on the top of your head. This was an experiment, really, to just see how good this sounds. A lot of times you're not supposed to pull stuff off the wall, which is like, I mean, it's hard to see, but like this snare, for example, is really kind of like, it's almost more out in the middle of the room. That's usually not something you're supposed to do. I think in this case it works because it doesn't move around a lot, but you have to be the judge. I actually was pretty happy with how this turned out. For this particular song, which even though I did a dynamic objects mix that has a ton of stuff moving around and it's really crazy and I think it sounds cool and it's a good test for your system, for this particular song in this style, I would probably have mixed it like this. I kind of like this version the best. So again, see what you guys think, but this is just more like enveloping. Again, things don't move around, but it just puts you inside the space and you can kind of vibe out to the music, which fits with the mood of this song. Just got to pause quick, remind you to like, subscribe. If you like what I'm doing here, please share it. Please, of course, go check out the files. Like I said, I really want to see what you guys think about these different mixes on your system. So we're going to talk about the last one here in a sec, but I just want to, just like I said, you can like and subscribe. That's the best thing you can do to support me, or one of the best things. Another thing would be, of course, to join my Patreon so you can get these files in Dolby True HD, which again, I'll talk a little more about at the end. Okay, let's get back to this. So the third version we have of the mix is what I'm calling the Dynamic Objects Home Theater Mix. This is more like a lot of the other Atmos mixes I've done, where everything is an object and it's moving around almost all the time. Of course, there's a bunch of things that stay static too, but most of I really did probably more than you would do again on a song like this. Okay, this is kind of the other extreme. So like the two guitar tracks, the keys solo, the guitar solo, even the bass sometimes, they're always moving. And I tried to do some things that you typically wouldn't try to do. This was also just a test for me to kind of see some things that works and doesn't work, which is like something where you pan something through the middle of the room or from the middle, start in the middle and then move to the wall. That's typically something that doesn't work as great, but there's a couple points in here you can see if you like it for yourself. But generally most people stay what they say on the wall, so it kind of moves around all the speakers, right? When you come in the room, it's because you're trying to do like one sound through like 5 speakers at the same time, and you can just run into some phase issues and stuff like that. But people do it sometimes, and it's done in movie mixes too sometimes, so just something to think about. So I'm just going to go through this real quick and just kind of give you a couple things to check out, to listen for. So in the first verse, you've got in the intro, you got some fun movement with stuff moving around. Now, one thing I want to see, again, here's another thing to comment to tell me. So the guitars and the keys move around a lot, right? For me, because of the type of the sound that keys are, it's kind of like a soft electric piano sound. It's kind of harder to tell where they are in the room because it's not a real bright sound, and it's not like a transient sound. That's the word I'm looking for. I feel like the guitar, since it's a lot brighter, a lot more high end, it's easier to hear where that is, right, when that moves around. So you guys kind of, see if you notice the same thing. If the keys, it's harder to kind of tell where the keys are. But anyways, on the beginning, you've got the guitar and the keys moving around. Everything kind of moves with the beat of the music. When it gets to the first verse here, you've got the clean guitar doing the melody, and that's doing some cool movements around. There is a couple spots again where it's kind of moved through the middle of the room, but that's more for the last verse. Okay, but like there's a movement right there going right across, like right into the middle. The first keys solo, okay, that's right here at like 130. So like it starts in the back behind you and moves up front. Again, this is the part, just listen to it, see if you hear it. It's for me, the keys are kind of harder to hear them distinctly moving, even though I know they are, just because of the type of sound, which is just, kind of a theory I have on, when you play stuff in Atmos, it's you being able to hear its pinpoint location also depends on what the sound is, because some sounds are not transient sounds, like a pad or something, or the sound of, if you want to think of moving, like the sound of wind or something. It's kind of harder to place those exactly, where they are, as opposed to like a crash or a crack or something, a punch, or or like something like a drum hit or a keyboard sound that's real transient and really bright, or a guitar sound. Those are, to me, a lot easier to hear exactly where they are, just because of the nature of the sound. The key solo does some interesting moving around. Like there, I've got a thing where it goes back, it's jumping back and forth between the rear heights and the surround backs, and then it's got some cool stuff where it's gonna kind of move around and then do like a little helicopter thing, which moves kind of fast, like right here. So that's kind of a fun thing to check out. So just again, see how you like that, and what you can hear. The guitar solo that comes in, the clean guitar solo that comes over here at 234, it starts out right in the middle of the room in this little head right here, and then goes from the middle to the center. So again, that's kind of the typical move you wouldn't do, pulling it into the center of the room, but see how you like, if you like how it sounds. You'll see when it starts like right there, It's right in the middle and then comes forward. Then right here at 256, you've got the distorted guitar solo. This is more, I didn't move this through the middle as much. This like starts in the back left surround and kind of, or yeah, the rear surround, and it kind of goes up above you and over the top and flies around, and then does a bunch more kind of flying around in the height speakers. You can kind of see it there, kind of going, it's going to go up and over you, and everything's going to stay more on the wall like you traditionally would do. So to me, it's a little easier to hear exactly where that's going, right? And then it just got some, fun movements moving around after that. And I did some little crazy stuff at the end of the solo there. Probably moves too fast, but, just was trying something. Got that bouncing back and forth, the rhythm guitar and the lead guitar moving around. This I'm just calling like the band lick. Everybody plays this same lick together. And it's kind of, you got opposite the lower guitar octave and the higher one moving around. And then one thing that's cool right here is like right here, you're not going to see it on the objects, but the bass actually moves around in the corners, because the bass is still going through the bed, but it still moves around. So that's something cool to check out there. And then you've got this lick right here where I've got some, I was moving them really fast, da, 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 like matching the rhythm. So again, it's a little crazy, but see how it translates. Now, here's one of those, I talked about this little breakdown is different in each of the 3 versions. In this version, it starts in the center, kind of travels past your left ear, and ends up going up to the rear height speaker. And it also gets a little more reverb as it goes, so it sounds like it's kind of tailing away from you. But this is another one of those kind of going through the middle of the room. It's not directly through the middle, but it's kind of going, right beside you. So see if you get that sensation. When we first learned about Atmos, that was one of the things. It's like it's supposed to be able to go like right through the middle of the room. As we've all kind of find out, it's, yes, it can, but how that actually translates is harder to actually pull that off. That's why a lot of people, again, keep stuff on the outside. So this last verse that starts at 402, this has, again, more stuff moving through the middle of the room with the lead guitar. So kind of check that out. Some cool stuff with the rhythm guitar bouncing back and forth and them kind of chasing around, right? Then after the last chorus, we've got this drum break, right? Now, I tried to do something, this is a little crazy here. So what I was thinking about, I don't remember which Motley Crue video it is, but there's some old video of Tommy Lee, the drummer from Motley Crue. He would go in this drum cage, and the cage would spin around, like this, or go forward while he's still playing, right? So I was like, wouldn't that be cool if, because the drums, I have it so that, the kick's right in front of you, the snare's like right there, you've got the hi-hat and stuff and the cymbals there. So as he's playing the beat, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if the drums kind of move backwards, right? Like up on the ceiling and up behind you, almost like as if the whole room was spinning around, kind of like the Tommy Lee thing. So there's 2 ways you can listen to this part. You'll see the objects as they move up. If you just stay looking forward, you should hear right here, the drums kind of go over your head and then they'll end up behind you, right? But then right when the bass comes back in with the riff, the drums are going to snap back up to the front. But I think it sounds a little weird to me when I listen to it that way. I think the way you should listen to that, I know this sounds funny, but as that part's going, have your head follow the movement. So as it's going, like I'll try to do it, you're going to have your head, you're going to have to really crane your neck and stretch, but as you go over and you try to follow it, it actually sounds really cool because you can literally follow the drums in front of your face as it's moving around the room. So that's something cool to try. Then this end part, this is just meant to be like a groove, just a really, simple thing. Bass and drums first, right? So there is some stuff where the bass jumps to the other speakers on some of these fills, but you've got this rhythm guitar comes in, which is just moving through the heights. And it's just kind of panning slowly. So it's just this one little rhythm guitar. So if you really want to hear one thing without a bunch of other stuff going on, you can really hear, how accurate it is moving around the room. Okay. Then as the keys come in here in a second, the rhythm guitar is going to switch down to the bass layer. So that's only the rhythm guitar is now just going to move around the bass layer, and the keys are going to be moving around the top. So again, just listen. You don't have much going on here. So you can really pick out 1 or 2 sounds and try to focus on that, whether it's the keys or the guitar. Those are the only one that's moving. The drums are staying static. The bass will, if I remember right, it jumps around a couple times, but mostly stays right there in the left and right. So anyways, those are all 3 versions. Again, I want you guys to comment and tell me which version you like best. Don't forget to download the files, try it out on your system. I've got the instructions there on how to do that. Of course, like, subscribe, share. If you want to check out the Patreon to get the files in Dolby True HD, so the uncompressed versions. Okay, go to the link in my Patreon if you join. It's just a small monthly fee, but you get access to all my Atmos mixes in Dolby True HD, and that comes in MKV or M2TS format. So you can try them out and listen to it on your system uncompressed, Atmos via True HD. If you really like music mixes like this, check out this video, which is going to be one of my last music mixes that I did. And if you're really into like Dolby home theater demos, kind of like the stuff like Leaf, Amaze, Core Universe, the ones that used to be on the Dolby demo disc, check out this video. And that's going to be a really fun home theater demo. It's not a music demo. It's an actual home theater demo. And that one specifically, I haven't got a lot of eyes on that one yet. And I really think home theater fans are going to enjoy that. So please go check that one out. But like I said, you'll see all the other Atmos mixes when you go to the link on my website. And just appreciate you guys watching, guys and girls, whoever is out there watching. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you on the next one.